Welcome to the Hella Homes Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Hella Homes Podcast. I got with me Anthony Booker with LaSalle Mortgage. Thanks for joining us, Anthony. Real quick, a lot of people may not have heard of you. They're coming from my audience right now. Why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself, how you got involved in the business?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's going on, guys? My name is Anthony Booker. I'm a mortgage lender with LaSalle Mortgage Services out of Oakland, California. I actually don't live in Oakland. I just bank with the bank that happens to be in Oakland, but I'm actually here local in the Valley in Modesto. So I do a lot of people in Modesto, Manteca, Stockton, also help Bay Area people too, but located here in the Valley. A little bit about myself. I have a few years of experience. I started in the mortgage industry in late 2020, probably during one of the most dynamic periods in the real estate industry in general. But yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot in those short few years. And yeah, now I'm taking what I know and giving it to the people so they can make empowered decisions about real estate.
Awesome. Appreciate you joining us here. What we wanted to do, and we're gonna be doing this going forward, hopefully every other week, a couple times a month, just to give you guys kind of an update on where the mortgage market is. And I know that's one of the main questions, one of the main conversations that I always have with people is, hey, what are interest rates doing today? You know, that's the very first thing on people's mind. So I wanted to bring in a professional to let you guys know. So if you could quickly, Anthony, just give us kind of a general, state of the mortgage market.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, there's some consolidation happening right now as far as interest rates are concerned. We're still trying to battle inflation. I mean, when we're looking at the reports, the numbers are heading in the right direction. So we're starting to see inflation come down, which should have an impact on mortgage rates in the near future. But as for right now, so the Fed actually meets this Wednesday, and they're expected to release the information on what they're doing with interest rates. Now, all of my sources have told me, and MBS Highway have said that they're expected to raise rates another 1/4 of a point, which is not too bad considering some of the ones we've seen in recent months were 3/4 of a point, 1/2 a point. So I feel like if anything, this is kind of an indication that things are starting to calm down. Whether we'll see that big decrease in rates that people were predicting, I don't know. But nonetheless, I think things are starting to come to a more normal point as we're starting to see people borrowing money less as student loans are starting to be talked about. People are going to have to start paying those back. So I think people are kind of calming down the spending, which is having an impact on rates. We should see some dips in the near future, but for the next few months, they'll probably be consolidating.
Right. More stability. We're not going to see the giant jumps or the giant falls right now from things that I'm hearing either.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Perfect. Now to get into the real meat and potatoes of why we're talking today is kind of the fallout from the Dream For All program, CalHFA. For those of you who might just be hearing about this for the first time, CalHFA rolled out a program called Dream For All that essentially lent first-time home buyers up to 20% of the purchase price of a home that would basically sit as a silent second that was repayable either at the refinance or the sale point of the house. Is a shared equity program. You had to pay back that 20% plus 20% of any profit that you made on the home. And tell us about how that went the first week or 10 days.
Oh man, it was absolute madness. So pretty much what happened is they rolled out the program, right? With a allotted funds of $500 million, give or take like 50 mil. In the first 8 days of the program being rolled out, they used, I think, north of $300 million of funds in 8 days that had been reserved. So that had mean people that whether they were already in contract or people that were looking to get approved, they had already applied with CalHFA and had their funds reserved, and took up more than half of all the funds that were allotted to the program in only 8 days. That's something that I've never seen happen. I've talked to multiple people in the industry. They've never seen this happen, especially on CalHFA programs. I mean, the big one that they did last year was the CalHFA Equity Builder, and that one was even on the market for at least like 3 or 4 months.
Right.
So a lot of people got to take advantage of it. The guidelines were, somewhat strict as far as who could use it and who couldn't. And yeah, pretty much after having so much funds reserved, they decided to just pause the program altogether and say, hey, we're going to put this program on hold for now. I'm thinking what's going to happen is they're going to do some guideline revision, because there's obviously some flaws as far as how the program was built. I think it was a little bit too inclusive.
Yeah.
And from what I was hearing from other loan officers, there was people that, because the income limits were set so high, there was people that were really already affluent that probably didn't really need the funds, but they saw the program and was like, hey, I might as well take advantage of that. Right. So yeah, that program is put on pause for now. They do expect to roll it back out. From what I was hearing, it was late May was what everybody was anticipating, but there's nothing set in stone on that so far. So I think that what they're going to do is revise the guidelines, make it a little bit more strict, make the barrier to entry a little higher. So that way, when they do open the program back up, it doesn't just get absolutely swarmed like how it did on the first 8 days.
Right. Yeah. One of the main complaints that I heard just from talking to folks like yourself was how easy it was to kind of just roll somebody that was already pre-approved, that was already well into the escrow process, rolling them over into this program, even though, they've been pre-approved, they have funds, they didn't need these funds, but they were able to just kind of shift them over here, keep that money in their pocket for whatever, that's fine. But perhaps it should have been a little more difficult to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was one of the things that they were talking about is making it so that you had to have gotten in contract within a certain time frame, so that they pretty much can't do that anymore, like where they're already in contract and just kind of throw them in the program. But yeah, man, I think in talking to a lot of people out in the Bay, it sounded like it was pretty popular, because we know there's a lot of people that are really savvy out there and people that are investing and doing their thing. So I think when they caught wind of that, they were kind of like, okay, how can we use this to our advantage? So
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you have anybody that you were, getting involved in the program or were on their way when this thing got paused? Did that affect you?
Yeah. Oh man, I experienced some major heartbreak over this whole thing, man. So I actually had 2 buyers that were in a position where they were depending on the funds from that program, so they couldn't bring too much of their own funds to the table. And not only that, even the people that did have their own funds, they were in contract at price points where they really kind of needed that 20% assistance to get the house that they wanted, just because affordability is what it is now, which is really not affordable.
Which is the whole reason we rolled this program out, right?
Exactly. So, I mean, I think I had to tell them as soon as I heard the news, we were still in contract, and I was waiting for approvals from CalHFA because I had already submitted their files. They got back and said, hey, we're not accepting any more files after this date, which was, I think, originally like 7 days after the program. So I had to break the news to them like, hey, they're not accepting any more files. We're going to have to fall out of escrow at this point. So some people that lost some funds that were done for appraisals, inspections, and yeah, just some heartbreak all the way around on that front.
Yeah, and hopefully that's something that when they do relaunch the program, they can address those problems and maybe be a little bit more forthcoming with loan officers in particular to let them know what deadlines are going to be, when they're going to actually. I mean, this whole thing, I think it was maybe way more popular than they expected it to be. And the number of people that took advantage was obviously overwhelming. Another thing I heard from another loan officer was there was that extra little educational piece to it. And there was at one point, she said there was a 6-week waiting period because all of the slots for that educational program were taken up. So people that had a 30 or 45-day escrow would barely even be able to get through the program, or if they could at all.
Jeez. Wow. Wow. And I'm curious to know, because I think there was like a fee of like $99 for the course or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how many people actually bought the course that ended up not being able to use the program, because I'm sure there were a few.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully they were able to, get that money refunded to them.
Yeah.
But like you said, the truly heartbreaking thing is the people that had already shelled out for, $500 for an inspection fee, $700 for an appraisal fee, because, this money was supposed to be there for them. And now they're out that, hopefully able to get all of their earnest money back.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just kind of a bummer all around
Yeah.
how it went down and how quickly it kind of devolved.
Right. Yeah. It came out of nowhere, completely out of left field. I mean, I still remember getting the email update saying that it was paused, and I was like, wait. Yeah, I think you probably seen it too, where there was a lot of industry professionals on social media sending out alerts like, "Hey, I just heard CalHFA has already used a quarter of their funds."
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this like, that's fake news, whatever, like disregarding that. And then to actually see it come to fruition, I was like, wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. I think I first started hearing a little bit, the initial rumblings of funds running out, or them maybe putting a pause, like 3 days after it launched. Another guy that I talked to, another loan officer, he was actually in touch with the director of education for CalHFA or something, and he had heard the rumblings, and I can't confirm or deny, but get those applications in quickly, kind of thing. And I think a lot of us were just like, no, this is a program that's going to be around for at least a couple of months. So like the other equity share or what was it?
Right. The equity builder.
Equity builder. Yeah. Equity builder. And that was around for over 4 months, I think.
Yeah.
And so plenty of time. And we're hearing rumblings within a couple of days, and it's like, this can't be real.
Right. It was a total shock. I mean, I'm really curious to see what revisions they're going to make to the guidelines, just because they have to do something about the barrier to entry. I mean, that's obvious, because this is just something that I've never seen before, and it was a good learning lesson, because it taught me as a loan officer, okay, if you're going to be having borrowers that are relying on down payment assistance programs, you need to make sure that you have backup options for them, and options at different price points, just in case that program doesn't, if something happens where the bottom is pulled out from under them, they have something to fall back on. So unfortunately for us, there's nothing else out there that's even close to 20%, but
no.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for buyers to kind of get a feel for what else is available to them, because every now and then they'll catch wind of these really hot products and programs, but they don't know that this is something that's available year round. It's just, you got to be in the know to know about it.
Yeah, I do think that was kind of beneficial. It was really well advertised.
Yeah.
And it got a lot of people interested in down payment assistance in general. And there are other programs, there's grants depending on the city and the county. There's all kinds of things out there. Obviously, nothing does come close to 20% down, but it does kind of get people in the door to at least start talking about other options, because it is really, really difficult to save these days with skyrocketing rent and wages not keeping up with inflation. You're spending an extra $200-300 a month on groceries. Savings is kind of out the window. Everybody's just trying to survive. So any way that we can help people to find extra dollars somewhere to get them into a house is as a bonus. And there's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, there really is. I mean, even I learned some stuff in scrambling and trying to find different programs for my borrowers. Like, I didn't even know that was available, So yeah, that was a good takeaway from that. If nothing else, there was somewhat of a silver lining. And then also, I posted a video about it a little while back, but it also kind of just shows the strength and the demand of real estate in general right now. I mean, if people are going to use up $300 million worth of funds for this program in 8 days, that really just shows you how many people out there that really want to buy a home. Even with these rates being high, there's still so many people that want to buy a home today. It's crazy.
Absolutely. And there is no better investment. as real estate professionals, mortgage professionals, we're constantly talking about, you're paying somebody's mortgage. It might as well be yours. That's kind of our go-to,
Right.
thing. It's cliche, but it's 100% true. You're paying these insane rental prices, and I see them here in Manteca. You're paying $3,000 a month for, a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. It's wild, and even at these crazy rates, we can get you into something that is around that price. And if the barrier to entry for you is down payment funds, closing cost funds, there are options out there, and it's good for people to have these conversations and at least look into it and see if it's an option.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was really eye-opening for a lot of people. And I mean, I'm curious to see what it's going to do in the future, just because we know that demand is there. The market's probably going to be changing as it usually does, like in the spring and summertime, where a lot of people flood the market. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's another conversation I'm having later on today, is kind of where we see things going as far as inventory goes, because that's been our biggest drawback over the last year and a half, has been inventory is still incredibly low.
Yeah.
So that's kind of maintaining these higher prices. So what we really need is a flood of inventory, and for rates to come down just a little more, to bring pricing, further down and make things more affordable. But yeah, it's been an interesting couple of years.
Yeah.
And everyone's doing their damnedest to find some kind of balance in this market. And yeah, this was going to be a great thing. Hopefully it can be again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the dynamic of the market is really going to say a lot about the future of real estate in general, just because, like you said earlier, I mean, if we get these rates to start coming down, we'll see a direct correlation in inventory, because like you said, it's hard to convince these people that have 3 and 2.5% interest rates to sell their home and move up, when they're going to move up into a 6-7% interest rate.
Yeah, 100%.
So
I have seen, and I have comments on TikTok and Instagram videos and stuff like that are like, bury me in my 2.5% interest rate. I'm just never leaving. You know what I mean? Like, it is a massive jump to ask somebody, even if they really, really genuinely want to upgrade or need to upgrade to a bigger, better house, or if they're looking to downsize. I'm having a lot of conversations with people that are looking to downsize for retirement, but they refied into these super low interest rates. So maybe they're coming down from a 3,000 square foot house into something more manageable for them.
Right.
But their mortgage isn't going to drop very much because the rate's so much higher. So they're like, well, I'm paying the same price. I might as well keep my McMansion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a hard sell, honestly. Yep. You got a fat house for a low payment to downsize to still have a similar payment. It's like, where's the win?
Exactly. So I think if we get back to the more normal rates in the 4 or 5 range, it's a much easier conversation to have.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just to kind of touch on that a little bit, I alluded to it earlier, but I really think that student loans is going to be the X factor with the inflation and the rates coming down, just because, I mean, you look at the typical American consumer mindset, right? Is spend, buy, put stuff on credit. And I mean, with people having their student loans in forbearance, they're not having to pay that. They're like, cool, okay, I can go out and spend more money.
Yeah.
So we all know what that does to rates, right? It hikes rates up because we're trying to curb inflation. Yep. So I think once people are back on the hook for those student loans, that's going to slow spending down a lot in the rate at which people are borrowing money. And, hopefully that leads to the rates coming down a little bit. At first, I thought it would be kind of messed up for people to have to pay their student loans back. But now I'm kind of like, it might not be the worst thing.
It might not be the worst thing. Yeah. We definitely need to curb inflation somehow. Tons and tons of factors go into that. That could be its own whole podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So once this does get relaunched, because there are still funds based on the initial thought was going to be 500 to 550 million in funds that were going to be doled out, and then they were going to replenish based on when they got paid back, and it would just kind of be a rolling 550 million. give or take. There should still be about $200 million out there.
Right. Yeah, in theory, it should be.
In theory. What would you like to see as far as kind of a way to stop what happened before, to stop the frenzy and make sure that these funds are going to the people that actually need them?
That's a good question. I mean, I really feel like there's a lot that they could do as far as getting creative and making sure that those funds are reserved for low to moderate income people. I think that honestly has to be a priority. The income limits were crazy. I think if you're in the Bay, you can make upwards of $250K and still qualify for that program, which, far be it for me to speak on other people's finances, but I think that if you're in that bracket of income, you're probably not someone that really needs those funds. I think there's a lot more people where, they really do need access to those funds in order to achieve home ownership. So I think that has to be a priority. I would like to see them kind of come down on the income limits a little bit and make it more similar to like that equity builder program. I feel like that was the sweet spot. Also, we were kind of talking about the contract dates as far as when you got into contract. I think that would be a really smart move, just so that we're not having that same thing of people that are already in escrow, switching programs, using the program and utilizing the funds. Because in talking to a lot of other loan officers and agents, there were people that knew this program was coming out, and in anticipation of that, they pushed like a 60-day escrow. So they're really smart about how they went about it. But I think that all in all, it's maybe not the fairest thing, especially to the people that haven't been approved yet and haven't had that opportunity and are getting engaged because of these programs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was probably my least favorite thing about it. And you're 100% right. It was smart of a lot of loan officers to push for the longer escrows and, hey, let's get you in a contract. That way, our application is at the top of the list. We're in contract. You're pre-approved already. So, it was very, very smart of them. At the end of the day, though, I don't think it was all that fair, especially to people that needed the funds in order to qualify.
Right.
Whereas a lot of these folks that rolled over didn't need the funds to qualify. They were able to qualify on their own and then just kind of soaked up those funds because why not? So
right.
The rules are the rules. They took advantage. Awesome for them, I suppose. But I definitely would like to see that change made where we're more focused on people that need the funds to become homeowners rather than, hey, it's nice that I don't have to shell out this 20%.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that, and that's how it's been on most of the other programs, right? I think that should be, that should be the case with this one as well, especially given how lucrative it is. People that are out there that some people have a higher knowledge of how all this stuff works. So with that, they kind of know how to get in there and take advantage of it, how to manipulate it a little bit and make it work for them. So yeah. Being
a loan officer is definitely, it's a science and a math game, but the best of you guys are artists, and I'm always impressed when I work with a good loan officer that can stay on the edge of the lines but stay within them.
Right.
It's pretty amazing what you guys can do out there, and so I never want to fault a loan officer for painting within the lines as long as they're doing right by their clients and everything like that.
Right.
But I think the CalHFA needs to anticipate that a little better with future programs and hopefully with this program going forward, and realize that, hey, there's some smart people out there that are gonna do everything they can to do right by their clients, and maybe we gotta curb that a bit.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's smart loan officers, smart agents, and I really do feel like in talking to people, just the general population is starting to have a lot better understanding of how all this stuff works. I mean, you encounter people that are a lot more savvy these days, that know how to best allocate their funds, what programs they want to use, if they want to pay for points. Like these are things that we typically have to explain, and they come into it already with that knowledge. So and
that's 1,000% why we're, wherever you're watching this or hearing this, that's what our goal is to make you the savviest buyer possible,
Right.
and make sure that you're aware of things that are out there. Even if you don't use myself as a realtor, if you don't use Anthony as your loan officer, we still want you to be empowered and be as knowledgeable as possible, so that, hey, maybe you hear something from us that you can take to your loan officer or your realtor and say, hey, I heard about this thing, let's dig into it.
Right. Absolutely.
All right, Anthony. Well, I appreciate you stopping by, having this conversation with me today. I hope everybody out there feels like they got a little more informed on what happened with Dream For All and what's coming up on the mortgage market. Let them know how they can get in touch with you there, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, if you guys want to look me up on Instagram, I'm on Instagram as the Anthony Booker. I have all my contact information up there, application link. If you want to go ahead and get started with an application, schedule a consultation with me, whatever the case may be, reach out to me via social media, or if you want to hit me via phone call or text, my phone number is 510-366-7512. Always available and happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate you stopping by.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you as well. Thanks for having me.